after getting dumped, Bartholomew Bart Sterling ended up in my bed. We were living in a dump, rent-controlled and all, and his underwear was the kind you get in those $10 for 5 packs. After we clawed our way back from broke, he was gonna marry his high school sweetheart. I decided to ditch him, but he never came home. That night, an earthquake hit. Our beat-up apartment building, thanks to years of neglect, totally collapsed. Word on the street was that Bart kneeled in the rubble, digging with his bare hands for 3 days and nights, but never found my body. Well, duh. I was already on a plane to Los Angeles. It was our 5th anniversary, and Bart didn't show. After eating dinner alone, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw a post from Penelope Penny Harrington tagged with Bart. The caption was "Reunited is less than 3, and the photo was a side profile of Bart swiping a credit card. Penny's hand was just barely visible, with a huge rock glittering on her ring finger. Damn, that dude's loaded, I thought. Later, when I was already in bed, Bart finally came home. He slipped under the covers, his body cool against mine. I didn't want him touching me and scooted toward the wall. But Bart just got closer, his hand creeping up until it landed on my wrist. Something cold slipped onto my finger. It was a ring, and it felt a little awkward. I lifted my hand and saw a rock the same size as Penny's. It was her style. "You like it?" Bart whispered. In the moonlight, his hair was damp, the water running down his neck. He never wore a shirt to bed, and those water droplets traced the lines of his abs and his V-cut, heading south into his sweatpants. He watched me, his eyes filled with a sort of smug anticipation, like he was waiting for me to kiss him, like he used to when I'd get a gift. "It's huge," I said, giving him a fake smile. I reached over and felt his abs a bit before adding, "But I like bigger ones." Bart's face fell. The next morning, Bart was gone. Instinctively, I checked Penny's Instagram again. Of course, she'd posted. Penny was in a wedding dress. And in the background, a blurry figure was visible. Broad shoulders, a slim waist, and long legs. It was Bart. I wasn't the only one who noticed. An old classmate commented, "Oh my God, is that Bart Sterling?" Penny replied with a little coy emoji. Our old classmates started flooding the thread. "Congrats, you guys! High school sweethearts. Looks like the golden boy finally got his girl." While I was lost in the comments, a text popped up from Bart. "You awake? Oatmeal on the stove, don't forget to eat." I tossed my phone aside and went into the kitchen. He'd made red bean and oat porridge. Bart couldn't cook anything for crap, but he made a mean bowl of oatmeal. I ate it all. My dignity can take a hit, but my stomach won't. I wasn't that surprised that Bart was going to marry Penny. I'd known Bart since high school. Back then, he was the most popular guy in school. Rich family, model-like looks, valedictorian, and a cello prodigy. Every Monday, Bart would give a speech at the flag ceremony. He was always in a crisp, white uniform shirt. The girls' stares could have burned holes through him. But out of all those girls, Bart only had eyes for Penny, his childhood friend. He was just too perfect to be real. How did I, of all people, drag him down? After graduation, Bart's family lost it all. His mom married some guy right away, and his girlfriend, Penny, dumped him and went overseas for college. Even then, he had chicks chasing after him. I managed to get in the picture purely by chance. We were both going to the same college. And get this, I had the same general look as Penny. So, one night, I found Bart at a bar near campus. He was wasted. If Bart in his white uniform was this clean, distant, golden boy, Bart now looked like shattered porcelain, his white shirt stained with booze, his dark eyes filled with pain, his throat bobbing as he chugged whatever he could get his hands on. Like gold that had fallen into the mud. While every man and woman at the bar was eyeing him, Bart just kept on drinking. Until I came to his table, smiling. Bart didn't even look up. He just said, "Leave me alone." "Bart Sterling," I said, "you've got the worst attitude." Bart glanced up, and his eyes widened when he saw my face. I took Bart back to my apartment that night. He didn't resist. Lying in bed, I told Bart my name and that we went to high school together. He said he didn't remember. The lamp cast a soft light. Bart's eyes started to clear. I slipped out of my clothes, and when my tank top fell off my shoulders, he turned away, sitting up and saying he needed to get home. I looked at his red ears. No way was I letting a good thing slip away. I sat up and, grabbing his chin, kissed him. He was clearly trying to pull away, but when he looked at me, he gave in, dropping his hands. I knew he thought I was Penny, but I didn't care. For a guy like Bart, this might have been the only time he'd ever let himself fall. I didn't want him to miss out. The only thing that surprised me was how inexperienced Bart was. Oh, he and Penny had just been friends. That kinda shocked me. Afterward, I sat on the edge of the bed and lit up a cigarette. Seeing Bart stare, I raised my eyebrows. "Don't like it?" He didn't say anything, just looked at me, and finally said quietly, "I hate the smell of smoke." I lit up anyway. Bart ran a hand through his hair, looking pissed. "I'm gonna leave." I pointed at the door, "It's that way." Bart stood up, but didn't leave. He walked around for a bit, opened the window for some fresh air, found the washing machine, and started washing his stained shirt. "I can't just go out like this," he explained. I ignored him. Bart walked around the living room a few more times, then came back to me, leaning down by the bed. "Are you sore?" He looked at my face for a minute, then down to my lips. I took a drag of my cigarette and said flatly, "It was 5 minutes, I'm fine." Bart's face turned dark. Maybe it was his competitive nature, or maybe just his bruised ego. He didn't say anything else, but his eyes clouded over. When I realized what was happening, Bart had pinned me against the wall, one hand holding me in place, the other one firmly on my waist as he pushed into a kiss. He was getting good at this. I bit my lip as we hit the headboard, refusing to say a word. On the surface, we were together. In reality, we were just using each other. Bart was always pining for Penny. He'd stare at her Instagram updates from overseas. Her life was as low-key and luxurious as ever. Bart, drowning in debt, didn't reach out to her. Which was good for me. Maybe because of that first time, Bart was obsessed with proving it was a fluke. He had the energy of a man in his early 20s, and he used it all on me. I started to feel drained. Bart had classes during the day and then worked several jobs to pay off his loans. After working until 10, if he came over, it'd go until early morning. I'd wake up with bags under my eyes, and Bart would already be cleaning the apartment. Smart, energetic, and fast at learning. Including housework. I'm nearsighted and I don't see mess, I just pretend it doesn't exist. Bart had perfect vision and OCD. So, it was always him doing all the work around the house. And when someone does nothing, they have to be sweet. I liked calling Bart by his name. When he'd look at me, I'd prop my head up and say, "I like you so much." And when he was overloaded with school and work, I'd pretend to feel sorry for him and say things like, "Don't push yourself so hard, I'll take care of you one day." My game was to always make promises. Where the promises would be kept was anyone's guess. I was broke. We kept this casual thing going until junior year, when Bart got hurt on the job. He'd taken a modeling gig for some photographer. And as the lights were crashing down, I was there to bring him his coffee. Yeah, I got some bad luck. The light should have hit Bart. I just pushed him out of the way. The light fell on my leg. Blood flowed out. At the hospital, Bart just sat there, staring, confused. Why? Why would I save him? Simple. I didn't want to see that artistic face get ruined. Even if it wasn't him, I would have saved someone. But Bart seemed to have come up with his own explanation. Because you love me and can't help yourself. I'll cherish you, Janie. He held my hand tightly, giving it a soft kiss. Like he was swearing an oath. Because of my leg, Bart moved into my rent-controlled apartment to take care of me. I thought he'd get tired of it, but actually it was the opposite. Every morning, he picked out my clothes, including my underwear. He'd style my hair too, since it was him who did it. Even with meals, if I wanted, I'm pretty sure he would have fed me. Summer clothes were thin, and Bart was young and full of energy. We tried everything everywhere, the kitchen table, the shower, the balcony, the couch. Yeah, we were definitely learning. All that touching started to feel kinda intimate. Sometimes I almost believed that Bart really loved me. But I'd wake up and see the same photo of Penny in his wallet. He was always going to be hung up on her. After graduation, Bart paid off his debts and got a job at a big firm. Things started to get better. Money transfers, designer makeup, and purses, it was like Bart was trying to make up for something. And I never turned it down. He gave me money, I spent it. He gave me bags, I wore them. Whatever he was thinking, or who he was seeing through me. I didn't care. Then, just as things started to look better, his old flame, Penny, came back. When Penny first got back, Bart wouldn't see her. Penny was always waiting for him outside our building. One night, it started pouring rain. Bart was restless in bed. At 3 a.m., he couldn't take it anymore, threw on his clothes, and bolted. I'm gonna meet a friend. Through the rain-streaked window, I saw Bart catching Penny as she fainted beneath a streetlight. His expression was so full of concern, the kind I'd never seen before. Not long after, Penny's best friend, Faye, DM'd me. Janie, you should just bow out. Those two have been close since they were kids. You don't stand a chance. If you insist on this, you're gonna get hurt. Reading her message, I laughed. It was like I was the villain in a bad romance novel. And the events that followed weren't any better. When Penny showed up, I almost killed her. You're not good enough for Bart, Penny said. We were on the outdoor patio of a coffee shop. Penny was wearing a chic white suit and a wide-brimmed hat, looking like an elegant white flower. But her face was pale. I puffed on my cigarette and shrugged. Is that so? I looked at your file. When you were in 7th grade, you got sent to your aunt's place. But they kicked you out 6 months later. So, you got sent to some other relative until your aunt died, and your uncle took you back in. You stabbed him during a family argument. No one else wanted you, so they sent you to a foster home. Until Bart's Family Foundation started sponsoring you, you couldn't even go to school. I let my cigarette burn out, looking at her. You came prepared, Penny. You're some trash with no family, and Bart. Smack. I didn't want to hear it anymore and slapped Penny across her face. After I hit her, my frustration was gone. But then Penny started coughing violently. And then she vomited a mouthful of blood. I was shocked. Penny, are you really gonna start with the theatrics? Penny was losing a lot of blood, looking like she was about to die. I still called 911. Then, I thought about it and called Bart too. Bart was there faster than the ambulance. He saw the mark on Penny's face. His eyes narrowed. Do you have an explanation? Sure, I did. I told him everything. I can handle guys, but I wasn't taking the blame. Bart frowned and said to Penny, "Why are you starting trouble with her?" It sounded like he was scolding Penny. But in the tone, there was a tenderness. You're always causing problems for me. I'm busy, you know? Bart took off his suit jacket and cleaned the blood off Penny's face. The actions looked tough, but were full of concern. Penny didn't say anything, she just leaned into him. "Bart, am I gonna die?" "No," Bart said, "I'm gonna get you to a hospital." As he was leaving, Bart turned around, looked at me like he was searching for words. "Your temper needs work, Janie. You can't use your hands." I just looked at Bart. I wanted to laugh. Explaining didn't matter. Guys don't care who's right or wrong. Whoever they love is cute and wonderful, even if they're messing up. That's what love is. It made me sad, a little. Penny was his true love. One line from her made my 5 years worthless. Seeing my face cloud over, Bart softened his voice. "I got a gift for you. Be good." The gift Bart talked about was a ring like Penny's. I held up my hand and stared at the diamond. It was huge. But I didn't like it. And I had a feeling my time with Bart was coming to an end. It was weird. Even though Penny was back, for some reason Bart never brought up breaking up. It was Penny who got antsy. It was my birthday. As soon as the food was on the table, Bart got a call. He got up right away and said to me, "Something important came up, I won't be back tonight." I just nodded. Bart turned back and searched my face. "Why are you so calm?" I asked him, "If I told you to stay, would you?" Bart didn't answer. He just ruffled my hair and said, "Don't overthink it before leaving in a hurry." I ate the food, and I almost started to cry. Because Bart still couldn't cook for crap. As I was throwing it in the trash, Penny sent me a photo. Bart was by her hospital bed, holding up her IV bag. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. But Penny, clearly trying to get under my skin, wrote, "I heard it's your birthday? Too bad, he chose to be with me." Her smugness practically oozed from the screen. I answered, "You better send me a birthday gift." Penny shut up after that. After my birthday, Bart and I stopped talking. At first, he'd call every 2 or 3 days. Then once a week. Then once a month. I knew he was spending time with Penny. But things were going slow with them. I gave it 3 months before there was some real progress. It was a video from Faye. In the video, Penny was smiling. Someone asked, "When are you and Bart getting married?" Penny blushed and said, "End of the year. Everyone needs to come." The people there said, "We'll be there." Bart just sat beside her, looking calm and not saying anything. I knew it was coming, but seeing that video still stung. That night, I was on the couch when I called Bart. His voice was tired. "Janie, I just got back from a get-together and I'm gonna sleep." I asked, "Is there anything you wanna say to me?" "What do you mean?" Bart said. All sorts of things ran through my head, but I just said, "Bart, since you already gave me the ring, shouldn't you ask me to marry you?" I was just trying to test the waters. But Bart was silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "Janie, I can't get married right now." I grabbed my phone. "Oh, well, I never said I'd say yes." "Sorry," Bart whispered. "Can you please wait?" I hung up on him. I knew I was never going to end up with Bart. So why did it hurt so much? A drop of water fell on my face. It was just one drop, but then more followed. Where was it coming from? I looked up. There was a crack in the ceiling. This building was old, and whenever it rained, water collected on the roof and seeped through the ceiling. It was dripping onto my face. This place is gonna fall apart one day, I thought. I moved the couch and put a bucket down to catch the water. The apartment had been having issues for a while now, but Bart had fixed it once. "Once we finish this project, we can get a bigger house," he'd said next to me. "What kind of house do you like, Janie?" "Big. With floor-to-ceiling windows, and close to downtown. With a view of the water." he asked, and I answered. Bart smiled. Since losing everything, he'd been serious, his face always calm, like he was bottling all his feelings. When he smiled, it was like an iceberg melting, and spring was finally here. I was dizzy. I felt a little ashamed, knowing those apartments in downtown cost millions. It'll happen. Bart held me in his arms. His voice was soft, but firm. Janie, just wait for me. Those good memories were just a mirage. And now, he was getting engaged with Penny behind my back. From the moment he chose Penny, it was time for Bart and I to end. I decided to break up with Bart. On Valentine's Day, Bart didn't show. I texted him, "When are you free? I need to talk." Bart never texted back. As I was about to call him, Bart's assistant reached out. His assistant was a recent college grad and very enthusiastic. He told me Bart had a gift for me and to be ready to sign for it. But when I got there, the assistant didn't hand me a gift. He drove me to some fancy gated community. The assistant gave me the key to one of the townhouses. It was over 2,000 square feet. The sun streamed in through the large windows. The left side of the view was the river flowing by, and the right side was practically the entire downtown core. "This is a gift from Mr. Sterling," the assistant said. I stood there, completely stunned. "Are you sure Bart sent this?" I asked. The assistant smiled and said, "Mr. Sterling was working on this gift for a long time. He wanted it to be a surprise. Mr. Sterling really loves you." I felt all sorts of strange things. Like something was nibbling on my heart. So, Bart did remember. Suddenly, the door swung open. It was Penny. The assistant was clearly shocked. Penny asked, "I live here, what are you doing?" The assistant said, Mr. Sterling got this for Miss Janie." Penny snorted and sent a text. A minute later, a voice came from her phone. "Lee, that townhouse is for Penny. As for Janie," Bart paused and continued, "I'll make it up to her with something else. Don't tell her about the house." The assistant stood there, awkwardly, looking at me, his face red. He didn't tell Bart that I was here, and that I knew everything. Penny hung up. "Did you hear that? This is my house now." She looked at me. Her face changed. "Janie, you're not supposed to be here. Go away." I looked at her, and headed for the door. But Penny grabbed my hand. She stared at my ring. "That ring should be returned." She reached out to grab it. I jerked my hand away, then grabbed Penny and pushed her hard against the wall. "All you do is steal, guys? They said I was starting to look like you, but I don't want to be compared to you. And didn't you leave Bart yourself?" "I had to." Penny said, "I was sick. And Bart was broke. What else could I do? Let him watch me die?" "Janie," she sneered. "You'll never beat me. I always get what I want." So, that was it. I was surprised. Bart was marrying her because she was sick? Penny fell to the ground and started coughing again. Then, she fainted. I put her on the couch. "Take her to the hospital," I said to the assistant. "I'm going." I was leaving for good. Not just from the relationship, but I was planning on leaving for Los Angeles. I contacted a luxury consignment shop and sold all of Bart's gifts. "You wanna sell this ring? It's brand new," the shop owner asked. I nodded. After sending out resumes for a week, I got a bunch of interviews. I'd spent too much time pretending to be Penny's understudy. And in my view, chasing men was the most pointless thing a woman could do. Life was short, and I had more important things to do. So, I quit my job, booked a flight to Los Angeles, and started over. But all the while, I kept Bart in the dark. And when I finally got everything ready, Bart called to ask, "What's up? Are you free today? I need to talk," I asked. Bart said, "I need to talk to you too." I guess he was ready to call it quits. Bart was in a good mood and almost joking, "So stay home and wait for me, okay?" We agreed to meet at my apartment at 5. My flight was at 10, but Bart hadn't arrived even by 7. I called him, but he didn't answer. I opened Penny's Instagram and saw a new post. Penny was blowing out candles on a cake. Bart was next to her, looking at the cake, like he was spacing out. Right before I left for good, he had chosen to be with Penny. I didn't wait. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the airport. The destination was Los Angeles. But my life would not be all about Bart. After getting off the plane, I slept in the hotel. The next day I saw the news and learned there was an earthquake in my old city. It hadn't been bad in other areas, but my area was closer to the center, and the old building was totally destroyed. I was a little scared, and happy with my choices. I was glad Bart wasn't there, and I didn't wait for him. But I didn't expect to see Bart live on TV. The collapsed building was roped off, and the reporters were live on air. Suddenly, Bart ran right into the shot. "You're crazy," a staffer yelled from behind him. "It's unsafe. You'll die if you go in there." Bart almost fell, covering his face with his hands. "No, my girlfriend is still in there." The staff tried to pull him back. "We need the rescue teams. You're lucky to be alive." Bart was distraught and he didn't listen to anyone. He broke away from them and tried to run in again. More staff showed up to stop him. Bart tried to dig at the ground, and his hands started bleeding, but they dragged him away. I was sitting in my hotel room, remote in my hand. I was frozen. Bart had made a mistake? The word was, Bart had lost it. He waited there, wanting to find Janie's body. Even if his fingers were bloody, he just wrapped them up and kept searching, looking for her. After 3 days, Bart fainted. "Don't go back there," Penny said as she visited him at the hospital. "You can't help anyone. Just wait for the rescue team." Bart didn't say a word, he just looked out the window. "It's been 5 days, there's no way she's still alive," Penny said. "Bart, death is normal. You need to accept it." Bart's eyelashes trembled. The rent-controlled apartment was a piece of trash, and he knew it. During the rainy season, water dripped down from the corners of the bathroom. But they were broke, they didn't have much of a choice. Bart had made a promise that one day, he'd get a real home and he'd be with Janie. Later, Bart got money and he did buy a home that Janie would have loved. But he didn't give it to her, he made her stay in the same apartment. He thought he could make Janie wait. He never thought she'd be hurt. It had been 5 days since Janie got stuck. She couldn't be alive. But he couldn't accept that she was dead. How could Janie be dead? If she was gone, all his hard work was pointless. Penny was still talking, but he didn't listen. He just pointed at the door. "As of right now, our deal is over. Leave." I didn't reach out to Bart and get rid of the confusion. The best exes are dead. And he was with Penny, so he'd get over it. They were going to get married. Los Angeles was a great city. Everyone had a story, but they all lived well. Even if everything was falling apart, they had their afternoon tea. And the high cost of living made me work harder. In 2 years, I had all these clients. But work was hard, and to retire early, I needed a new gig. Thanks to a client named Leo, it wasn't long before I got the opportunity. He was a guy, and I was a girl, and we found out that we both liked guys. And handsome ones. So we started looking for hot young guys. Not for dating, for work. We were in advertising. That was just about attracting the client's money and the viewer's attention. And with the internet, social media is everywhere, so anyone can get big. We signed some of the most promising and did all the branding for them, getting a cut of the profits when they worked with brands. Maybe it was luck, but all the people I signed went viral and brought in huge profits, every single one of them. I didn't work as hard, but thanks to them, my company grew from a handful of people to almost 300. And our company was worth over $2 billion. Which meant I was set for life. At first, it felt surreal. But as the company grew, men started coming out of the woodwork. Some would show up at my hotel room in just a robe. Some would brush their legs against mine at the negotiating table. Some would act all natural, but it was clear they were trying to get my attention. They say that when a guy has power, he has women falling over themselves. It was the same for women. Some people even started asking about my type, and sent a recent grad my way. His name was Sean, and he'd been voted hottest guy at a bunch of schools. I didn't have a plan, but when he looked up, he looked exactly like Bart in high school. So, I just decided to keep him around. As my assistant. In that moment, I thought I finally understood how Bart felt when he met me. I'd take Sean with me when I was out. One day, Sean asked me if I'd upset anyone. He said he'd seen a black car following us for a while. After he drove me home, he said, "Boss, should I come in and watch over you?" As I was about to answer, we heard a strange sound from the nearby plants. We looked and saw a black cat jump out of the garden. "It's nothing," I said. On the elevator, I noticed my neighbor's place across the hall had been remodeled, and there was a red window sticker. A new couple, I thought. I vaguely remembered some old memory just before I fell asleep. It was a long time ago when Bart and I had celebrated New Year's Eve. He'd made some dumplings and was sitting next to the window, quietly cutting some decorations. "We need some rituals for the holiday." He looked at me. The old apartment, the red decorations, and that one good time. I had no idea that the person in my memories would show up the next day. It was Leo who hooked us up. He had been telling me a bunch of times that an investor was interested in joining us. Since I was free the next day, I agreed. This investor was sitting at the window, in a black coat, with beads on his wrist. I was about to go over when he turned around. It was Bart. How could it be Bart? I turned to leave. "Janie," Bart said calmly, "what do you want to drink?" When I sat down, I saw Bart had lost a lot of weight. "Are you sick?" I asked. "Where'd you get that bracelet? It's pretty." Bart didn't answer, he just looked down. "My teacher gave it to me." I was shocked. Bart continued, "I was a monk for 2 years. He looked up at me. His voice was calm, but gave me the chills. "Do you know why?" "How would I know?" Bart looked out the window. "You don't want to know." He didn't say anything else, he just started talking about the investment. As he was leaving, Bart said, "I'll take you home." Sean was already here, waving from across the room. "No," I said, "I got a ride." Sean smiled at Bart. "Thanks, man, but I can drive my girl home." Bart was frozen, like a statue. In the car, Sean asked, "Who was that?" "An ex," I said and lit a cigarette. Sean grabbed the wheel. "What? Your old flame? Is he gonna get the wrong idea?" I shook my head. "Whatever. It was just a chance meeting," I thought. I was wrong. Back in my apartment, I ran into Bart in the elevator. I glared. "Don't tell me it's a coincidence." "I live here," Bart said. The elevator stopped and he was at the door across from mine. And the keypad unlocked. Bart looked at me with his dark eyes. "Good night, Janie." I slammed my door shut. "I need a new place," I texted Leo. "Got any rentals?" "What's up?" he asked, sleepy. I told him about Bart. "Oh, so that's your ex," Leo said with a strange laugh. "That's why he was all over me to invest." "Do you have a place?" I asked, flatly. Too late, Leo said. He's a partner at our branch, contract signed. Look on the bright side, Leo said. He answers to you. The next day at work, Bart was there. They were all fooled by his looks, and they were planning a welcoming party. I closed my office door. At lunch, someone knocked. I thought it was Sean, but it was Bart. Leo told me to give you this. He smiled and gave me a lunchbox. Everyone was watching, so I had to take it. I knew Bart was lying. He made it. I didn't know what Bart wanted. He just showed up, and was in every aspect of my life, without saying anything. Then I saw Penny. I didn't want to see Bart, so I went to the charity. After I realized I had more money than I knew what to do with, I started this charity, to help the disadvantaged. I never expected Penny to ask for help. She was surprised I was the owner, and a look of shame washed over her. You didn't die, you're actually doing great. Weren't you dying? I asked, why aren't you dead yet? It was all fake, Penny said, but it wasn't for you, it was for my family. If I didn't pretend to be sick, my stepmom would have killed me. Janie, I'm jealous of orphans. I was pissed. I hope you're an orphan in your next life, Sean, please take her out. We looked at each other. Then, Penny shrugged. Help me, Janie, I need money, I'm pregnant. I said, you should ask Bart. Why would I go to him? Penny said, confused. He left with a monk, and no one knows if he's even alive. She laughed. You're such a fool. He gave up everything for you. I wanted to know what she meant. Penny continued, we had a deal. He'd help me take my family's money, and I'd get revenge. But when you died, he quit. What do you mean? I asked. Bart's company got bought by the Harrington Group, and the chairman is my dad. We have the same enemy, Penny said. He pretended to be my boyfriend to get into the company and become a VP. We were never together. He was never in love with me, Penny said. She smirked at me, you just didn't know. After the earthquake, Bart thought you were dead. He cut his wrists, he tried to die with you. When they found him, he'd sliced up his wrists so badly, they barely saved him, and he lost the use of that hand. I was frozen. I felt like I'd been doused with ice water. He still found all the illegal stuff that was happening in the Harrington Group, and got my dad out. I asked him to marry me, but he wouldn't. He became a monk. If he hadn't left, I wouldn't have gotten scammed. I lost everything. She was starting to get hysterical. That scammer. I'm gonna kill him if I ever see him again. She clutched her head, screamed, and began bashing her head against the wall. I called for an ambulance. The paramedics said that she was a patient who had escaped a nearby mental ward. Penny didn't want to go. She screamed at me, help me, Janie. I gotta go find that scammer. I waved the staff over, take her. When I got home, I saw Bart. He was sitting in front of my door, with blank eyes. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, you're back. I didn't say a thing. I just grabbed his wrist and pulled his beads off. Underneath the beads, there were scars. My heart sank. I was so angry that I slapped him. Bart, what the hell is wrong with you? His head jerked to the side, but he just grabbed my hand and touched it to his cheek. I thought I'd never see you again. His face was red, but he kept holding my hand, gently stroking it. Janie, I messed up. But, please, don't ever leave me again. I looked at him coldly. Bart, I said, I don't care about any of your reasons. And, I have a boyfriend, you've met him. I pulled my hand away. Bart held on. We looked at each other for a minute. Then a tear ran down his face. Bart was crying. He didn't let go, his eyes were shattered. What if, he started, even after that, I still want to be with you, even if I'm just your lover? I opened my door and sat on the couch. 10 minutes, I said, tell me everything you've been hiding. If one word is a lie, I'm done. Do you want me to start from when I had a crush on you in high school? Bart asked. I almost fell off the couch. What? Bart looked at me. He said that he noticed me when we started school. Because I was sponsored by his foundation, and we were in the same year, he was watching me. Weren't you with Penny? I knew her a long time, but it wasn't a relationship, it was just rumors. I cut him off. Then why did you have her ID in your wallet? Bart thought about it. It was because Penny put it there, but it stopped people from bothering him. And he forgot it was there. I watched you for 3 years. I thought I was just curious. But when another guy asked you out, I was mad. Then I knew I liked you. I thought about confessing, but it was almost college entrance exam, and then my family went bankrupt. Then, at the bar, you sat in front of me, and I was mad, but I didn't want to refuse. What if you found someone else? That time was amazing. Bart said. Then after college, I went to work at the Harrington Group. My plan started to come together. Penny reached out to Bart to work together. She hated her dad and stepmom. Bart didn't want to help her, but compared to the Harrington Group, he was so small. And opportunities are hard to find. If he gave up Penny, he might take so much longer to get his revenge. So he decided to work with her. Bart said that he wanted to tell me. But after everything was done, he didn't expect the earthquake to happen. Penny took the house he was going to give me. He was planning to give me another key, the key to the old family house. He had all the evidence on the Harrington Group. When it was all over, we'd have a home. But he didn't expect me to die. That was when he realized he'd messed up. He wanted to die, but he failed. Then, he became a monk. 2 years later, he saw me on TV. Just a side profile, but he broke his beads. Bart looked at me, his eyes were misty. Janie, you don't know, when I found out you were alive, I didn't care about anything else. Compared to you being alive, nothing matters. I turned him down again. Bart, everything that happened before is over. It's different now. And, I'm happy with my life. If you really love me, I looked him in the eye, then leave me alone for good. I didn't think I was too harsh. But his face turned white. He looked like a puppy. That night, I couldn't sleep. The scars on Bart's wrists kept replaying in my head. I'd lied to Bart and myself. Could I really let everything go? When he wasn't there, I was good at building a fortress in my heart. But when he appeared, the whole thing crumbled. But that was fine. I was stubborn. I texted Leo that I needed to go overseas to do research, and maybe we could open an office. He replied okay. The process to go overseas was quick. The day before I left, I checked social media. I saw Bart's post. He'd asked me to be his friend on social media a few days ago at the office. I didn't think he'd post anything. I clicked and immediately sat up. It was a pile of sleeping pills. I ran back to his apartment and pounded on the door. I kept calling. A minute later, Bart opened the door in a robe. You're out of your mind, I said. Bart smiled, water dripped down his neck. Did you just find out? His gaze was a net, pulling me in. Bart put his arms around my waist. You can push me away, he said, quietly. But Janie, I'm different from you. I'm only alive because you love me. Instead of living like a zombie, I'd rather die. So, please don't go. Please. Outside it was raining. I looked away. You're threatening me. Bart said, no, I'm begging you to love me. I was exhausted. You don't need to do this, so many people would love you. Bart looked at me, his eyes going dark. Sorry, he smiled, you shouldn't have seen that. He let me go and turned to walk inside. I walked in behind him. The apartment was minimal. Why are you still here? I'm gonna make sure you're okay. Bart didn't say anything. He took off his robe. It doesn't need to be so hard, he said. Suddenly, I never asked you to be with me. So, let's try again, Janie. Bart got close, with that dangerous look. I promise I won't tell Sean. I must have gone insane. I didn't refuse his offer to try again. We went at it until 5 a.m. I fell asleep, but Bart was restless. He'd get up and touch my eyes and hair, like he was checking I was still there. When he did it for the 80th time, I snapped, "You're crazy, Bart. You're gonna make me lose my sleep." Bart said sorry and then hugged me. At noon, Bart had laid out my clothes and my things. He'd made me some seafood porridge. My flight was at 4. I wasn't gonna miss it. I didn't tell Bart, I just opened the door. I walked out. Then I felt like I was back 4 years ago, leaving Bart for Los Angeles. I'd never told Bart why I was interested in him. When I was 11, my parents died and I was sent to live with my aunt. I forgot a lot of things. I only remembered being tossed around. Then, drunk, my uncle snuck into my room at night. I found the knife under my pillow. I wanted to die. So, I stabbed him. Blood everywhere. He fell. I thought I'd killed him. I ran out and almost hit a car. The driver was yelling when a quiet, handsome boy got out. He didn't say anything. He gave me money to get shoes. He gave me the card for the foundation. Maybe I was a good liar, because I'd been lying to myself. I was too afraid to fail. I turned back and went back to his apartment. He stared at me, hiding a knife. I didn't see it. I said, "My flight is at 4 p.m. to Chicago." Bart was sad, but nodded. I said, "Do you want to come?" Bart was shocked. Then he smiled. "Yes. Wherever you go."